Medical professionals seem to agree that an experimental treatment could help some of the most vulnerable COVID-19 patients. Nueces County Health Director Annette Rodriguez says they are working on a convalescent plasma program with the Coastal Bend Blood Center. It would involve taking plasma from recovered COVID-19 patients and using the antibodies to help critically ill patients.
Antibodies are produced naturally by the body to fight off infections. Recovered patients produce the antibodies while fighting off the disease. The antibodies that recovered patients produce can be used to slow down the symptoms and aid in recovery until medication or a vaccine can be developed.
Again, this is an experimental treatment, but one that has been approved by the Food and Drug Administration. Rodriguez is asking COVID-19 patients to become a part of the program once they recover from the disease.